Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and all who have joined us today, both in this grand hall and from around the world via live stream, welcome. Today, we gather to embark on a profound journey through the life and legacy of a titan of justice and equality, Miss Susan B. Anthony. As we delve into her story, we'll uncover the depth of her commitment to women's rights and her unyielding dedication to the cause of suffrage, a cause for which she fought tirelessly until her last breath. Our purpose today is not merely to recount historical facts, but to draw inspiration from Susan B. Anthony's resilience and strategic acumen. We aim to learn from her challenges and triumphs, to better understand the ongoing struggle for gender equality, and to reflect on how her legacy can inform our actions and beliefs in today's world. So, as we proceed through this lecture, I invite each of you to engage fully, reflect deeply, and perhaps find a piece of wisdom in Susan B. Anthony's life that resonates with your own paths and pursuits. Together, let's honor her memory by continuing to question, to challenge, and to strive for a world of true equality. Let's begin this enlightening journey. Ladies and gentlemen, as we commence our exploration into the life of Susan B. Anthony, it is pivotal to first establish who she was and the indelible mark she left upon the world. Born on February 15, 1820, in Adams, Massachusetts, Susan B. Anthony would grow to become a central figure in the women's suffrage movement, a catalyst for change, and a beacon of resilience and determination. Her journey was not just about securing the right to vote for women but encompassed a broader struggle for equal rights for all. Anthony's life and work are a testament to the power of persistence and belief in one's principles in the face of overwhelming opposition. Why is Susan B. Anthony significant in history? It is because she dared to envision a world different from the one she lived in, a world where women enjoyed the same legal rights as men, including the right to vote. Her activism and advocacy were instrumental in paving the way for the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1920, which granted women the right to vote. Her contributions, however, extended beyond suffrage. She challenged the legal and societal barriers that oppressed women, advocating for equal pay, property rights, and the right to divorce, which reshaped the societal landscape of the United States. In this lecture, as we unpack her contributions, we will also reflect on the timeless nature of her efforts. Her actions, her speeches, and her unrelenting spirit continue to inspire those who advocate for justice and equality across the world. Thus, today's lecture aims not only to detail the chronology of Susan B. Anthony's efforts but to immerse us in the spirit of her mission, encouraging us to question, to challenge, and to never accept inequality as the status quo. As Anthony herself famously said, "Failure is impossible." This statement will guide us as we proceed to uncover the layers of her enduring legacy. Let us move forward, inspired by her courage and fortified by her wisdom. Diving deeper into the fabric of Susan B. Anthony's life, it is essential to explore her formative years, which shaped the tireless advocate she would become. Born into a Quaker family, Susan was instilled with values of equality, justice, and the importance of personal conviction from a very early age. Her father, Daniel Anthony, was not only a farmer but also an abolitionist, who believed strongly in the rights of all human beings to freedom and equality. This environment profoundly influenced Susan, embedding in her a fierce sense of justice and moral duty. Her education played a crucial role as well. Attending a Quaker boarding school, Susan received an education that was more comprehensive than that available to most girls at the time. It was here that she first encountered gender discrimination, as she observed the superior educational opportunities afforded to boys. This early exposure to gender inequality sparked a nascent awareness of the societal imbalances that she would later seek to address. However, Susan's formal education was cut short when her family was caught in the economic turmoil of the Panic of 1837. At just 17, she returned home to help her family survive the financial crisis, taking a position as a teacher. This period was marked by personal struggle but also by significant growth, as she began to see more clearly the disparities and injustices faced by women and the working class. During her years as a teacher, Susan became increasingly aware of the limitations placed on women in the workforce, including lower wages and restricted opportunities compared to their male counterparts. These experiences were pivotal, laying the foundational beliefs that would fuel her later activism. Susan B. Anthony's early life was thus characterized by an intersection of intellectual stimulation, moral upbringing, and first-hand experiences of injustice. These elements coalesced to form a strong, principled woman who would not only question the societal norms of her day but also actively work to transform them. As we examine her childhood and early adult years, we see the emergence of a leader whose early experiences of inequality and injustice propelled her onto a path of lifelong advocacy for equal rights. As we continue our exploration of Susan B. Anthony's life, let us turn our attention to her early involvement in social reforms, which marked the beginning of her journey as an activist. After her experiences in teaching, Susan found herself increasingly drawn to the broader social issues of her time. One of her first forays into activism was through the temperance movement. During the mid-19th century, the temperance movement sought to curb alcohol consumption, which was seen as a root cause of social ills such as domestic violence and economic instability. Women, who suffered most directly from the consequences of excessive alcohol consumption by male family members, were prominent in the movement. Susan joined the Daughters of Temperance in the 1840s, a group that provided a platform for women to speak out against alcohol. Despite her passion and dedication, Susan faced significant gender discrimination within the ranks of the temperance movement. In one notable incident, she was denied the opportunity to speak at a temperance convention because she was a woman. This experience was pivotal, reinforcing her conviction that women needed to have a voice in public affairs and leading her directly toward the women's suffrage movement. Beyond temperance, Susan also engaged in the abolitionist movement. Her family's home was a stop on the Underground Railroad, and through this, she was exposed to the harsh realities of slavery. Her activism in the abolitionist cause saw her associating with prominent figures such as Frederick Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison. These interactions further shaped her understanding of civil rights and the interconnectedness of the struggles faced by different oppressed groups. Through these early engagements in social reform movements, Susan B. Anthony developed key relationships and honed the skills that would become instrumental in her later work. She learned how to organize, speak publicly, and advocate effectively for change, skills that would prove essential in her suffrage work. Her early activism laid a solid foundation for her lifelong commitment to justice and equality, underscoring the deep interconnections between the fight for women's rights and broader social justice issues. In reflecting on this phase of her life, we see a pattern of growth from a concerned citizen disturbed by social injustices to a formidable activist ready to challenge the status quo. Her evolution during this period is a testament to the power of personal conviction and the impact of early experiences in shaping one's path to advocacy. As we delve into Susan B. Anthony's pivotal role in the women's rights movement, it becomes evident how her earlier experiences and initial activism seamlessly transitioned into a more focused pursuit of justice for women. This period marks a significant chapter in her life, where she not only joined but also became a leader in the fight for women's suffrage and equal rights. In the early 1850s, Susan B. Anthony met Elizabeth Cady Stanton, a meeting that would forge one of the most influential partnerships in the history of the American civil rights movement. Stanton, already a prominent figure in the fight for women's rights, found in Susan a formidable ally, one whose organizational skills and passion complemented her own. Their partnership was not only strategic but also deeply personal, bound by mutual respect and a shared vision for equality. In 1852, Susan B. Anthony attended her first women's rights convention in Syracuse, New York. It was here that she began to assert herself as a powerful voice for women's rights. She advocated for a wide range of reforms, including the right to vote, rights to own property, and rights to equal pay for equal work. Her speeches and writings from this period underscore her deep commitment to gender equality and her understanding of the structural changes needed. Anthony's strategy involved both legislative advocacy and grassroots organization. She traveled extensively, sometimes facing hostile audiences, to speak out against the legal and social barriers that disenfranchised women. Her relentless campaign helped to shift public opinion and drew national attention to the suffrage movement. A significant event in the movement, led by Anthony and Stanton, was the founding of the National Woman Suffrage Association, NWSA, in 1869. This organization aimed to address women's suffrage at the national level. Unlike other groups that were willing to compromise on women's issues for broader civil rights advancements, the NWSA maintained a clear focus on women's rights, illustrating Anthony's uncompromising stance on suffrage. Susan B. Anthony's approach was marked by her belief that securing the vote for women was fundamental to achieving broader societal changes. She saw the vote as a means to an end, the end being a more equitable society where women had a say in the laws and policies that affected their lives. This period in her career was characterized by her visionary leadership, her skillful command of rhetoric and strategy, and her ability to mobilize and inspire a movement. Thus, in this chapter of her life, Susan B. Anthony not only contributed significantly to advancing the cause of women's rights but also reshaped the American political and social landscape. Her efforts during this time laid the groundwork for future generations, making her a central figure in the narrative of women's suffrage and an enduring symbol of the fight for equality. As we venture further into the story of Susan B. Anthony, we reach a pivotal chapter in her life, her determined struggle for suffrage. This phase of her activism is marked by relentless campaigning, strategic alliances, and bold acts that underscored her commitment to securing the vote for women. Susan B. Anthony's suffrage work is perhaps best exemplified by her decision to vote illegally in the 1872 presidential election, a bold statement of civil disobedience that brought national attention to the suffrage cause. On November 5, 1872, Anthony, along with several other women, managed to register and vote in Rochester, New York. This act was not merely a personal assertion of her right to vote but a powerful protest against the legal barriers that disenfranchised women. The repercussions of this act were swift. Susan B. Anthony was arrested and charged with illegal voting, a move that turned her trial into a national spectacle. During her trial, Anthony seized every opportunity to advocate for women's suffrage, despite being denied a chance to testify on her own behalf. Her final statement to the court, "And yet it feels it is just," became a rallying cry for the suffrage movement, illustrating her unwavering resolve and her skill in using public events as platforms for advocacy. Beyond these dramatic acts, Anthony's strategy for suffrage involved extensive campaigning and organizing. She traveled across the United States, often through hostile and uncomfortable conditions, to give speeches, distribute literature, and rally support for the suffrage cause. Her approach was not only to persuade and inform but to mobilize women at the grassroots level, encouraging them to demand their rights and participate in the movement actively. Alongside Elizabeth Cady Stanton and other leaders, Susan B. Anthony also worked tirelessly to influence legislation. They lobbied for suffrage at both the state and national levels, presenting petitions and arguments to legislators, and challenging them to expand democratic rights to women. This legislative work was complemented by Anthony's efforts to form and unify various suffrage groups across the country, culminating in the formation of the National American Woman Suffrage Association, NASA, in 1890. with Anthony as its key leader. Susan B. Anthony's struggle for suffrage was characterized by her strategic thinking, her ability to create and maintain alliances, and her sheer tenacity. She understood that the fight for suffrage was not merely about the right to vote but about affirming women's equal status in society. Her leadership not only propelled the suffrage movement forward but also ensured that the fight for gender equality remained a central issue in American politics and society. In sum, Susan B. Anthony's contributions during this period were not just about confronting immediate barriers but about inspiring a comprehensive shift in how women's rights were viewed in American society. Her dedication to the cause reshaped the landscape of American civil rights and left an indelible mark on the nation's history. In our exploration of Susan B. Anthony's life, we now turn to a critical aspect of her campaign for suffrage: her engagement in legal battles and acts of civil disobedience. These actions not only highlight her courage and determination but also illustrate her sophisticated understanding of the law as a tool for social change. The centerpiece of Anthony's legal confrontations was undoubtedly her arrest and subsequent trial for illegally voting in the 1872 presidential election. This episode is not just a footnote in her career but a defining moment in her lifelong struggle for equal rights. After casting her vote, Anthony was arrested and charged with illegal voting, a move that she anticipated and was prepared to use as a platform to challenge the discriminatory laws directly. Her trial, held in 1873 in Canandaigua, New York, was a highly publicized affair that Anthony used to further the suffrage cause. Despite being denied the right to testify on her own behalf and facing a biased judge who directed the jury to find her guilty without deliberation, Anthony used every opportunity to speak out. Before sentencing, she delivered a powerful address to the courtroom, asserting her citizenship and her right to vote. She declared, "It was we, the people, not we, the white male citizens, nor yet we, the male citizens, but we, the whole people, who formed the Union." Although fined $100 for her actions, a fine she vowed never to pay, Anthony's trial did not result in the reversal of the voting laws. However, it succeeded in raising significant public awareness and debate over the legal basis of women's exclusion from the vote. Her refusal to pay the fine and the government's decision not to pursue the matter further highlighted the contradictions and injustices women faced under the law. Beyond her own trial, Susan B. Anthony continued to use legal challenges as a strategy to advocate for suffrage. She supported numerous other women who attempted to vote and faced legal repercussions, helping to fund their cases and using each trial to publicize the suffrage cause. These legal battles were part of a broader strategy to create a body of legal precedents that could eventually lead to a change in the federal law regarding women's suffrage. Anthony's use of civil disobedience and legal challenges was pioneering for her time. She recognized that by directly confronting the law, she could bring national attention to the suffrage movement and prompt discussions about the legality and morality of denying women the vote. Her actions laid the groundwork for future legal victories and demonstrated the power of civil disobedience as a tool for political and social change. In summary, Susan B. Anthony's legal battles and her commitment to civil disobedience were crucial in her fight for women's suffrage. They not only challenged the existing legal framework but also galvanized a national movement towards granting women the right to vote, marking her as a key figure in the battle for equality and justice. As we delve deeper into the life and work of Susan B. Anthony, it is essential to explore her writings and speeches, which were powerful tools in her campaign for women's rights. Through her eloquent and persuasive rhetoric, Anthony was able to articulate the injustices faced by women, mobilize support, and challenge societal norms. Susan B. Anthony's writing career began with contributions to various reform publications, where she addressed issues of women's rights, temperance, and abolition. Her ability to convey complex ideas in clear, compelling prose helped elevate her status as a leader in the suffrage movement. One of her most influential written works was The Revolution, a weekly newspaper she started with Elizabeth Cady Stanton in 1868. The publication advocated for women's rights, particularly suffrage, and tackled other controversial issues like divorce reform and the labor movement, providing a platform for radical ideas and advocacy. Anthony's speeches, often delivered in hostile environments, displayed her remarkable courage and conviction. She had a unique ability to engage with diverse audiences, whether she was speaking in small rural gatherings or addressing large crowds in major cities. Her speeches were not merely calls for action but educational sessions wherein she dissected legal and historical arguments to justify women's right to vote. One of her most famous speeches, "Is it a crime for a citizen of the United States to vote?" was given in multiple states after her arrest for voting illegally in 1872. In this speech, she meticulously argued her case, invoking the U.S. Constitution, and challenging the legal interpretations that excluded women from the electorate. She stated, "We no longer petition legislature or Congress to give us the right to vote, but appeal to women everywhere to exercise their too long neglected citizens' right to vote." Anthony's speeches often included powerful rhetoric to inspire action and provoke thought. She famously said, "Cautious, careful people, always casting about to preserve their reputations, can never effect a reform." Such statements rallied those who felt powerless, providing them with the courage to demand change. Her analysis of legal precedents and the Constitution not only educated her listeners but also prepared them to advocate for themselves. Her blend of logical argumentation and emotional appeal helped transform public perception regarding women's suffrage. In examining Susan B. Anthony's writings and speeches, we witnessed the intellectual depth and strategic thinking behind her activism. Her work was not merely about advocating for rights, but about changing the way people thought about democracy, justice, and equality. Her legacy as a writer and speaker is profound, providing future generations with a blueprint for civil rights advocacy and the power of words in the fight for justice. In our examination of Susan B. Anthony's life, it's crucial to focus on her ability to foster collaborations and nurture relationships that significantly propelled the women's suffrage movement. Her alliances with fellow activists not only amplified her impact but also strengthened the movement by bringing together diverse voices and talents. At the heart of Anthony's collaborative efforts was her partnership with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, one of the most influential and enduring relationships in the history of American social reforms. Stanton and Anthony complemented each other perfectly. Stanton was the philosopher and ideologue, crafting compelling arguments and ideas, while Anthony was the strategist and campaigner, who implemented these ideas on the ground. This partnership lasted over 50 years, during which they founded organizations, started publications, and orchestrated some of the most significant suffrage events in U.S. history. Anthony also worked closely with other key figures in the suffrage and broader rights movements. She was a friend and ally to Frederick Douglass, with whom she shared a commitment to both abolition and women's rights, although their priorities diverged at times. Their relationship exemplified how social reform movements often intersect, and it highlighted the importance of solidarity across different causes. Moreover, Anthony knew the value of nurturing the next generation of leaders. She actively mentored younger women like Alice Paul and Carrie Chapman Catt, who would eventually take up the torch of suffrage. This mentorship ensured that the movement continued to evolve and adapt, even as the political and social landscapes changed. Her ability to collaborate extended beyond individuals to include working with various organizations. Anthony was instrumental in forming the National Woman Suffrage Association, NWSA, and later played a pivotal role in the merger that led to the creation of the National American Woman Suffrage Association, NASA. These organizations united women from diverse backgrounds and with various beliefs under a common cause, demonstrating her strategic vision. Anthony's relationships were not without their challenges and conflicts. She occasionally clashed with other leaders and faced criticism for her uncompromising stances and decisions. However, her focus always remained steadfast on the advancement of women's rights. Through these collaborations and relationships, Susan B. Anthony not only amplified her impact but also helped to build a robust network that sustained the women's rights movement. Her ability to connect with others, draw on their strengths, and work towards a common goal was crucial in advancing the cause of women's suffrage and continues to serve as a powerful example of effective leadership in social movements. As we turn to the later years of Susan B. Anthony's life in our exploration, we witnessed the culmination of decades of steadfast advocacy and unrelenting persistence. Despite the slow pace of change and numerous setbacks, Anthony's dedication to the cause of women's suffrage never wavered. Her later years were marked by continued activism, significant recognition, and her ongoing impact on the movement she helped shape. During this period, Susan B. Anthony remained a central figure in the National American Woman Suffrage Association, NASA, leveraging her extensive experience and leadership skills to steer the organization through critical challenges. She traveled across the country, giving speeches, raising funds, and inspiring new generations of women to continue the fight for suffrage. Her ability to engage with both supporters and skeptics alike helped maintain momentum for the movement. Anthony also focused on building a sustainable organizational structure for NASA, ensuring that it would endure beyond her leadership. She placed great emphasis on training and empowering younger activists, understanding that the longevity of the suffrage movement depended on a continual influx of new energy and ideas. Figures such as Carrie Chapman Catt and Anna Howard Shaw were mentored by Anthony and would go on to lead NASA after her retirement. In 1900, at the age of 80, Susan B. Anthony stepped down as president of NASA, but her retirement was in name only. She remained active in the women's rights movement, continuing to speak out, write, and advise until her death in 1906. One of her most significant contributions during these years was her work on the history of woman suffrage, a comprehensive 6-volume series documenting the suffrage movement's progress, co-authored with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Matilda Jocelyn Gage, and Ida Husted Harper. This monumental work ensured that the history and lessons of the suffrage movement would not be forgotten. Anthony's persistence was also reflected in her continued advocacy for a federal women's suffrage amendment. Though she did not live to see it realized, the groundwork she laid through decades of campaigning was instrumental in the eventual ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920, 14 years after her death. Her famous assertion that failure is impossible remained a rallying cry and a source of inspiration for those who continued her work. In her final speech before her birthday gathering in 1906, Susan B. Anthony declared, "There have been others also just as true and devoted to the cause. I wish I could name every one, but with such women consecrating their lives, failure is impossible." Just 1 month later, she passed away, leaving behind a legacy of resilience, commitment, and an indomitable spirit that reshaped American society. Susan B. Anthony's later years exemplify a life dedicated to the pursuit of equality and justice. Her perseverance in the face of adversity, her strategic foresight in preparing the next generation of leaders, and her unwavering dedication to her principles stand as enduring lessons for all who seek to effect meaningful social change. In our lecture on Susan B. Anthony, we reach a crucial milestone in the narrative of women's suffrage in the United States, the passage of the 19th Amendment. While Susan B. Anthony did not live to see this historic achievement, her relentless efforts and the foundation she helped build were instrumental in its realization. The 19th Amendment, ratified on August 18, 1920, declared that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. This amendment marked the culmination of more than 7 decades of activism and advocacy by the women's suffrage movement, in which Susan B. Anthony was a pivotal figure. The path to the amendment's ratification was fraught with challenges. Following Anthony's death in 1906, the movement experienced a series of strategic shifts under the leadership of Carrie Chapman Catt and later, Alice Paul. These leaders took different approaches to the struggle. Catt focused on a state-by-state campaign and building broad-based support, while Paul adopted more radical, confrontational tactics. Both strategies, however, drew upon the groundwork laid by Anthony and her colleagues. Susan B. Anthony's contribution to the suffrage movement was not just her direct activism but also her ability to inspire and mobilize a widespread national movement. Her strategy of combining grassroots organizing with legislative advocacy helped set the stage for the eventual success of the 19th Amendment. Anthony also understood the importance of creating a comprehensive narrative around suffrage, which she helped achieve through her writings and speeches, ensuring that the cause remained at the forefront of public consciousness. The passage of the 19th Amendment was a testament to the efficacy of the strategies employed by Anthony and her successors. It was also a recognition of the justice of their cause, vindicating Anthony's lifelong assertion that women deserved all the rights and responsibilities of citizenship, including the right to vote. In celebrating the 19th Amendment, we recognize not just a legal victory but a profound shift in American society's understanding of democracy and gender equality. The amendment's ratification was not merely the end of a campaign but the beginning of a new era in which women could actively participate in and influence the political landscape of the nation. Susan B. Anthony's legacy in relation to the 19th Amendment is a powerful reminder of how individual dedication to a cause can lead to monumental changes. Her life's work continues to inspire those who fight for equality and justice across the world, reinforcing her belief that with committed and concerted effort, failure is impossible. As we explore Susan B. Anthony's legacy, it is essential to acknowledge how her efforts resonated far beyond the borders of the United States, influencing global movements for women's rights and achieving recognition on an international scale. Her commitment to suffrage and equality not only catalyzed changes within her own country but also inspired advocates for women's rights worldwide. Susan B. Anthony's influence extended into various aspects of global suffrage movements. Activists in countries such as Britain, New Zealand, and Canada drew inspiration from her resilience and strategic approaches to campaigning. Her methods of organization, public advocacy, and legal challenge served as a blueprint for women's rights movements across the globe. The international suffrage conferences she attended and spoke at helped solidify her status as a global figure in the fight for gender equality. Her recognition on the world stage was marked by numerous accolades, both during her life and posthumously. Anthony's correspondence with women leaders and suffragists in other countries illustrates her broad influence and the respect she garnered internationally. These interactions fostered a network of women activists who were united by their common goal of suffrage and women's rights, despite cultural and national differences. The global recognition of Susan B. Anthony's contributions to women's rights is also evident in various honors and memorials dedicated to her. These include her portrayal on U.S. currency, specifically, the Susan B. Anthony dollar coin, which marked one of the first times a woman was featured on circulating U.S. currency. This honor reflects her significant role in American history and her impact as a pioneer of women's rights. Furthermore, the United Nations, in its efforts to promote gender equality, has often cited Anthony's work as foundational to the global women's rights movement. Her strategies and speeches are studied by scholars and activists around the world as they seek to understand the dynamics of social reform and the mechanisms through which substantial societal change can be achieved. Susan B. Anthony's global influence and recognition underscore her as not just a national figurehead but a worldwide icon in the struggle for equality. Her legacy continues to inspire new generations of activists, serving as a testament to the power of dedicated advocacy and the enduring impact one individual can have on the world stage. This international aspect of her work demonstrates the universal appeal and relevance of her fight for justice and equal rights, resonating with those who continue to strive for equity in all corners of the globe. As we continue to examine the multifaceted legacy of Susan B. Anthony, it is important to reflect on her views on gender roles and society. Her insights into these issues were not only ahead of her time but also laid the groundwork for ongoing discussions about gender equality and societal norms. Susan B. Anthony saw the suffrage movement as part of a broader struggle against the restrictive roles imposed on women by society. She believed that granting women the right to vote was crucial, but it was just one step toward achieving full equality. Anthony argued that women should have the same opportunities as men to participate in all aspects of society, including education, employment, and politics. Her reflections on gender and society often emphasized the interconnectedness of various forms of oppression. She recognized that the fight for women's rights was inextricably linked to other social justice issues, such as abolition and labor rights. This holistic view highlighted her understanding that true equality could not be achieved in isolation but required a comprehensive approach to reforming societal structures. Anthony also critiqued the prevailing norms that dictated women's behavior and roles. She challenged these stereotypes through her own life choices, remaining unmarried and financially independent, roles that were atypical for women of her era. By doing so, she not only preached equality but also embodied it, serving as a living example of what women could achieve when freed from societal constraints. In her speeches and writings, Susan B. Anthony often reflected on the potential for a society where gender did not dictate one's opportunities or rights. She envisioned a world where women and men could equally contribute to and benefit from the social, political, and economic resources of their communities. Moreover, her advocacy went beyond just legal rights. It encompassed a cultural shift towards viewing women as full citizens, capable of making decisions about their own lives, including marriage, property, and career. This vision was radical at the time but has since become a cornerstone of modern feminist thought. Anthony's reflections on gender and society are still relevant today, as contemporary movements continue to challenge gender norms and advocate for equal rights. Her ability to link the personal with the political and individual rights with societal change remains a powerful example for current and future generations. In summary, Susan B. Anthony's contributions to our understanding of gender roles and societal structures form a crucial part of her legacy. Her profound reflections continue to inspire dialogue and action towards achieving a more equitable world, demonstrating the lasting impact of her visionary leadership. As we delve into the cultural impact of Susan B. Anthony, we uncover the extensive influence her life and work have had on art, media, literature, and popular perception. Her legacy extends far beyond the legislative victories and suffrage activities, embedding itself into the fabric of American culture and shaping the narrative around women's rights and equality. Susan B. Anthony's image and story have been portrayed in various forms of media, reflecting her iconic status as a pioneer of women's rights. Her portrayal in film, television, and theater often emphasizes her determination, intelligence, and courage, serving as an inspiration for many and a point of. In literature, Anthony's influence is evident in numerous biographies and historical novels that explore the complexities of her character and the times she navigated. Authors have been drawn to her story, using her life as a backdrop to explore themes of justice, equality, and the power of individual agency. Her persistent fight for women's rights provides rich material for exploring how far society has come and the work that remains to be done. Susan B. Anthony's impact is also visible in educational curricula, where she is often included as a key figure in American history. Schools across the United States teach students about her role in the women's suffrage movement, highlighting her as a model of civic engagement and perseverance. This educational presence ensures that future generations understand the significance of her contributions to both national and global histories. Moreover, her legacy is commemorated through various memorials and symbols. The Susan B. Anthony dollar coin, issued in 1979, was one of the first U.S. coins to feature a real woman, symbolizing her monumental role in American history. Additionally, numerous statues and memorials have been erected in her honor, such as the Susan B. Anthony Memorial in Rochester, New York, which serves as a physical reminder of her enduring impact on society. The Susan B. Anthony House, now a museum, offers another layer of cultural impact, preserving her legacy and educating the public about her life and work. The house is not only a National Historic Landmark but also an active center for promoting the values she fought for, hosting events, lectures, and programs that continue her mission of gender equality. In summary, the cultural impact of Susan B. Anthony is profound and multifaceted. Her legacy resonates in various spheres of American culture, continually inspiring new generations to value equality and to fight for justice. Through media, literature, education, and memorials, her influence persists, reminding us of the power of determined advocacy and the importance of striving for a fair and equitable society. As we consider the contemporary relevance of Susan B. Anthony's legacy, it's crucial to understand how her pioneering work in the suffrage movement and broader social justice continues to resonate and inspire current struggles for equality and rights. Susan B. Anthony's principles and strategies provide a blueprint for modern activism. Her approach to combining grassroots mobilization, legislative advocacy, and public education campaigns is mirrored in today's movements, which use similar tactics to address issues such as gender equality, racial justice, and political representation. Her example shows the importance of perseverance and strategic action in achieving long-term social changes. In the realm of gender equality, Anthony's fight for women's voting rights serves as a foundation for ongoing efforts to address gender disparities in political representation. Despite significant progress, women remain underrepresented in legislative bodies around the world, prompting activists to continue pushing for greater involvement and equity in governance, much in the spirit of Anthony's work. Furthermore, Susan B. Anthony's legacy is frequently invoked in discussions about women's economic rights, particularly in the fight for equal pay. Her early recognition of economic independence as a critical aspect of women's freedom is increasingly relevant in debates over gender pay gaps and the economic empowerment of women. Her impact also extends into the cultural domain, where her life and work influence discussions about gender roles and societal expectations. Anthony challenged the normative constraints of her time, advocating not just for suffrage but for a re-evaluation of women's roles in society. Today, as cultural conversations continue to evolve around gender identity, expression, and rights, her challenges to traditional gender roles resonate as a call to action for continued progress. Additionally, Susan B. Anthony's methods of civil disobedience and legal challenges are particularly pertinent in today's climate of global activism. Her willingness to engage in acts of civil disobedience, such as illegally voting, highlights the effectiveness of peaceful protest in drawing attention to injustice. Modern movements, such as those fighting for environmental justice or racial equality, often cite such historical precedents as inspirational examples for their own strategies. In contemporary feminist discourse, Anthony is sometimes critiqued alongside praise, with discussions often focusing on the inclusivity of her activism. This critical examination of her legacy encourages a more nuanced understanding of historical movements and fosters a more inclusive approach to current social justice efforts. In summary, the contemporary relevance of Susan B. Anthony lies not only in her specific achievements but also in her overall approach to social change. Her life's work continues to inspire and instruct those who advocate for equity and justice across various domains. By studying her strategies and philosophies, modern activists can find guidance and motivation, ensuring that the pursuit of equality remains vigorous and informed by historical wisdom. As we conclude our lecture on the life and legacy of Susan B. Anthony, we reflect on the profound impact she has had on the history of civil rights and the ongoing struggle for equality. Her life was a testament to the power of unwavering commitment to justice and the belief that steadfast activism can lead to substantial societal change. Susan B. Anthony's journey from a young woman grappling with societal injustices to becoming a central figure in the women's suffrage movement illustrates the potential for individual actions to spark widespread movements. Her strategies, ranging from grassroots organizing and public speaking to legal challenges and collaborations, remain relevant methodologies for advocacy today. Her legacy is not just about the achievements in securing women's right to vote but also about her broader vision for a society where equality is not merely an ideal but a lived reality. This vision encourages current and future generations to continue the fight for equity across all fronts: gender, race, economic, and beyond. As we conclude our exploration of Susan B. Anthony's remarkable life and enduring legacy, let us take with us not only an appreciation for her monumental contributions to justice and equality but also a personal lesson that can profoundly impact our daily lives. Susan B. Anthony once said, "Cautious, careful people, always casting about to preserve their reputations, can never effect a reform." This powerful statement encourages us to live with courage and conviction. In our lives, whether in small interactions or significant decisions, the spirit of boldness and a willingness to stand firm in our beliefs can lead to meaningful change. It prompts us to ask ourselves, what do we truly stand for? What changes do we hope to see in our world, and what are we doing to make them happen? Let this message inspire you to act with purpose and passion. Remember that each of us has the power to influence our surroundings and contribute to making our society more just and equitable. Like Susan B. Anthony, let us not shy away from challenges but meet them head-on with integrity and determination. Carry forward the legacy of Susan B. Anthony by embodying the change you wish to see, advocating for what is right, and never underestimating the impact of steadfast dedication to a cause. In doing so, we honor her memory and continue her fight for a better world. Thank you for engaging in this journey through the life of Susan B. Anthony. Let us step forward from here, inspired and motivated to effect positive change in our own lives and in the world around us.